ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaskar, my dear friends. This is third video on Isha Upanishad. Shankar Bhashya, commentary on Shankar Bhashya. It starts with stanza number 6. He who beholds all beings from the most subtle unmanifest down to the grossest inert matter in the Atma as not being separate from the Atma, and who beholds the Atma to be in them all, despiceth not because he so beholdeth. Ananta's rendering. Stanza number 6. He who knows that all beings exist in God only, and who beholds the God in all beings, does not go to disgusting states but becomes liberated. Sankara's commentary. Stanza 6. The ascetic, or one who anxious after emancipation, who sees pasyati all objects, sarvabhuta, beginning with the unmanifested mula prakriti called avyakta and ending with the grossest minerals in his self only, atamneva, that is, does not see anything else than his self, and who sees in all those objects his own self, sarve bhuteshu chatmanam, his self being the self of those objects by its selfhood, thinking thus, as of this body composed of causes and effects, I alone am the witness and cognizer of all perceptions, though I am pure and without any attributes. So, in this very way, by myself, I am the self of all creation, beginning with avyakta, unmanifest, and ending with the minerals. He who perceives without any distinctions the self in all objects, by that tattva, very realization or perception, does not despise vijayupaste anybody. This, the statement that he does not despise anybody, is merely explanatory. Prapta anuvada, as necessarily following from the foregoing statements, because all hatred and contempt arise from the false perception of a thing as separate from self. But when one sees always the pure self, for him there exist no other objects which can cause contempt. Thus, the non-hating becomes a necessary corollary of the foregoing propositions. Ananta's commentary, stanza 6. The Shruti now tells the mode of worship, Yastu. The meter of this verse is Anustap, that person, the above described Adhikari, who sees all creatures, beginning from the unmanifested Mula Prakriti down to the inert matter, all animate and inanimate creation, in the self, the sign of the locative case is dropped in Atamnev, which is equal to Atamnev, that is, who knows that all creation subsists in Brahma alone, and who again sees the self in all creation. Such a person, by reason of his so seeing, does not obtain the disgusting state. Viju yu paste jugu pasam apnoti. That is, he becomes liberated. Jogupasa is synonymous with censure, blame, disgust, reproach, and ignominy. It is formed by adding the desiderative affix son to the root gup by Paninian grammar. The sense of the root not being changed by such affix. This mantra has the same sense as that conveyed by the following teachings of Sri Krishna. He who sees me in all and sees all things in me, I shall not destroy him. That is, I shall not be absent from him, nor shall he destroy me. That is, he shall never be out of my sight. This is from Gita's chapter number 6, stanza number 30. Sankaraj rendering stanza number 7. When a man so beholdeth and perceiveth that all beings are no other than the self, and realist and realized the unity, where is delusion and where is grief. Ananta's rendering, stanza 7. In that state, when a person knows that God is one and existing in all beings, and when all beings become as if the Atma, in that state, beholding the unity of the Atma, for him there is no sorrow or delusion. The chains of avidya are cut asunder. Sankara's commentary, stanza 7. That very purport is taught by the present verse number 7, beginning with Yasmin. At that time or in what self as described above, for the word Yasmin meaning in which may refer both to soul and time. All these objects, Sarvani Bhutani, become as Atma only. Atmane Bhut, owing to the realization or perception of Atma, which is the Sammam Bonam, the great end, owing to the full knowledge, Vijanetaha, that the Atma alone is the highest object, then Tatra, that is at that time or in that Atma, where is delusion and where is sorrow, Kamoha, Kohi, Soka, because sorrow arises from not knowing the Atma, which is extreme bliss per se, and consequently untouched by sorrow. It is owing to this ignorance that one says, "Oh, I am killed. Oh, I have no sons. Oh, I have no fields." This is therefore why he desires to have sons, and in order to have such acquisitions, he is anxious to propitiate the gods, not seeing that Atma is unity. Therefore, by the process of Anvya and Vyaktireka, realizing that sorrow are the effect of ignorance, when this primordial innate ignorance is removed, there results the complete cessation of all sorrow. Therefore, the text teaches that it is right knowledge which conduces to cessation of sorrow. In the susupti state of dreamless sleep, though there is cessation of sorrow, Yet the root of sorrow still remains, it being merely a laya state. Therefore, the commentator says sorrow and delusion arise from the ignorance of the seed of desire and action. For when one sees the self as unity, as perfectly pure, like the all embracing sky, where can sorrow or delusion be? The sentence is put in the interrogative form for emphasis, meaning that sorrow and delusion, being the result of ignorance, become impossible when true knowledge arises. This verse shows the complete cessation of all the attractions of the world with its cause once knowledge is acquired. Ananta's commentary, stanza 7. The very same fact is taught by this verse also. Just mean its meter is anustap in that particular state of mind of one who has realized that all creatures are in the Atma and that Atma is in all creatures. Vijantaha, all creatures become as if the very Atma itself. This realization takes place by constantly thinking over the sense of Vedic text like these. All this is verily Brahma. That is to say, one gets the knowledge that the Atma is verily one only which dwells in all creatures. Thus the Lord has said in the Gita, chapter 6, stanza 31, he who realizes firmly the unity that dwelleth in all creatures with me, though he may be in various forms outwardly, he is really always in me. In that particular state, Tatra, having seen the unity of the Atma, what delusion or sorrow can there be for him? The sense is that there is then the complete eradication of worldly transformation together with its cause because of the absolute impossibility of the existence of grief and delusion, which are the effects of ignorance for such a mind, as says the Shruti Mandukya Upanishad chapter 2, 2.8, Katha Upanishad chapter 5, stanza 5, chapter 6, stanza 5. The bond of the heart is broken, all doubts disappear, and his works cease to bear fruit when the being who is supreme and not supreme is seen. Sankara's rendering, stanza 8. It, the Atma, like space, surrounds all, is luminous, is not the subtle body, it is not also the gross body, and is consequently without wounds and without muscles. It is not the causal body and hence pure from the taint of ignorance. It is untouched by the sins of virtue and vice. It is all seeing, it is the ruler of the mind, it is above all, it is itself all, that eternally free God through his omniscience has allotted from external eternal years to all things their respective works according to their nature. Ananta's rendering, stanza 8. Such a knower of self obtains God who is virgin white, that is, all knowledge and bliss, who is without body, therefore without wounds and fracture, being all whole, who is without muscles, who is pure, unimpaired by sattva, Rajas and Tamas, and who is untouched by sin. The God is all wise, omniscient, subjugator of all, self existent, independent of others. He in eternal years has distributed all proper and true objects. Shankara's commentary, stanza 8. This verse teaches us what are the specific attributes of the Atma besides those that have been described in the preceding verses. Sa Paryagat, that Sa already mentioned Atma is all pervading like space. Paryagat, Pari, on every side, Agati gone, therefore all pervading. Sukram means pure, full of light, effulgent. Ekayam means without body, that is, not having the subtle body called the Linga Sarira. Avarnam means without wounds or boils. Asnaviram, that in which there are no tendons. Sanava or muscles, by the words invulnerable. Avarnam, and without muscles. Asnivaram is excluded the gross body, that is, the Atma is not the gross body called Sathula Srira. Shuddham, pure, without any dross, free from the dross of ignorance. This precludes the causal body, Karna Srira, also with reference to Atma. Apapavidham, free from all sins in the shape of duty or virtue, dharma, and non-duty or vice, adharma. The words sukram, though in the neuter gender in the text, should be understood, however, to be masculine because the verse begins with sa prayagat in the masculine and ends with words like kavihi in the masculine, all referring to the same person. Kavihi, seeing all, on all sides, seeing all wise. As another Shruti says, there is no other seer than he. Manishi means the ruler. Isita of the mind, Manas, omniscient, the Lord. Paribhu, who is Bhavati above Pari, all beings. Swambhu, who is Bhavati himself. Swam, alone, those above whom he is, and those which is above all that is, only himself. Therefore, he is called Swambhu. He, the ever free Lord, on account of his omniscience, has ordained Vyadadhati, has distributed all things, arthan, that is, necessary objects according to their nature, according as they are fruits of acts or means of performing acts. This word yathata, yataha is an abstract noun in the ablative derived from the word yatha tatha, meaning as that. Savati bhu, from everlasting. Sambhuya, the ears, known as Prajapatis or lords of creatures. Ananta's commentary, stanza 8. This verse tells us what the fruit is which such a knower of Brahma obtains. Sa Paryagat, the meter is Jagati, the Adhikari who sees the spirit Atma in the mode mentioned above obtains or reaches that Atma as described below. The word Paryagat is composed of the preposition pre and the very agat in the verb agat in the aorist and means prapnoti obtains. In Vedic literature, the aorist conveys sometimes the sense of the present tense. See Panini. Of what sort is that Atma? It is white, that is pure, Sukra Sukla, the Ra being interchangeable with La, that is, its nature is knowledge and bliss. It is without body, that is, it has no body to suffer or enjoy the consequences of works. Being without body, it is consequently without holes. Avarnam, that is, it is full without any fractures. It is asantavira, that is, it has no snava or muscles. By saying akaya without body, the subtle body is negatived with regard to the spirit, and by saying asnavira without muscles, the gross body is negatived as muscles are representative of the gross body consisting of several humors. Thus there is no tautology. The Shruti then describes certain epithets showing the reason why it is without gross and subtle bodies. Shuddham, pure, not affected by the three qualities of sattva, rajas and tamas. The same idea is further expressed by the epithet aparvidham, that which is not touched vidham by sins papa, such as pain and the sufferings produced by deeds. The construction is that the wise man obtains paryagat, the above described Atma having the attributes of purity, the Supreme Spirit, though devoid of all actions, yet inconceivable power. Therefore, the text says, Kavi, the Spirit whom the wise reach, that Spirit, Savati Bhaya, Samadhya, in eternal years. The ablative here is equivalent to the locative case distribute vyadha vidadhati according to their true nature yatha yatharth varupena all objects padarthan of what sort is that spirit. It is kavi wise all seeing omniscient Manishi, intelligent, all knowledge, Prabhu, ruler of all, controller of all, Swambhu, independent, absolute, who exists, Bhavati, without wanting anything from another and by himself alone. Some commentators explain Kavi as an attribute of the worshipper. They say that the worshipper by attaining the spirit becomes Kavi, all wise. This interpretation should be rejected as by so doing the continuity of the sentence is broken. Now the Shruti addresses those who, not knowing the Atma by the methods laid down above, are absorbed in works and who wish to live by merely performing sacrificial works and nothing else. Sankara's rendering stanza 9. Those who are engaged in the blind performance of sacrificial works only without a knowledge of the real nature of the deities worshipped go to regions of blind darkness, and to a still greater darkness than that they go who are engaged in the knowledge of deities alone. Ananta's rendering, stanza number 9. Those persons who are devoted to mere sacrificial works go to blind darkness, that is, are being born and reborn, and to a still greater darkness they go who are solely devoted to spiritual knowledge, having abandoned works ordained by scriptures, for their minds never get purified owing to the absence of works. Those who are devoted to false knowledge about God go to dark regions, but to a greater darkness they go who are selfishly devoted to the true knowledge of God and do not put right those who, having false notions, are going the wrong way. Sankara's commentary, stanza number 9. Here, through the medium of the first two verses, is taught the devotion to knowledge, jnana nishtha, by the renunciation of all desires, and this is the sense of the hymen. Whatever exists in this world is to be enveloped by the thought of God and covet not anyone's riches. For those ignorant persons who wish for life and its pleasures and are incapable of devotion to knowledge, there is taught by the second verse the devotion to sacrificial acts, karma nishtha, by saying, performing sacred works, let a man desire to live 100 years. The division of devotions into these two kinds, as shown by the above verses, is also shown in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad as he desired, let there be a wife to me. For an ignorant person who has desire, the sacrifices are ordained. Mind is his soul and speech his wife. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. These verses conclusively establish that ignorance and possession of desires are the necessary qualification of a person devoted to sacrificial works, karma nishtha. So also is the result of desire shown there in chapter 1, stanza 51, as the evolution of seven sorts of conditions in which the soul dwells by identifying itself with them. Similarly, it is also shown that by renouncing the threefold desires of wife, the knowers of self, by opposing the tendency of absorption in action, are established in the self. As the verse says, what shall I do with children? They who are devoted to knowledge, jnana nishtha, who are sannyasis, are taught the evil consequences of ignorance, and ignorant men by the verse to the godless Asuric regions, and they are also instructed in the true nature of the self by the verse. He is brilliant, all pervading. The above verses are addressed to those persons only, and they are fit to receive the instruction contained therein, and not to those who have desires. So says also the 21st verse of the last chapter of the Savitvastara Upanishad, Atyasrambhiya, which means that instructions contained therein are not addressed to persons having desires. To those who are engaged in works and devoted to works and who desire to live by performing works are addressed the following verses. Andham taha How again is this known that these verses Andhavtaha are addressed only to karma kandins and not to all, because for those who have no desires a different means of accomplishing it have been laid down, and this is a refutation of the charge implied by the above question, as is shown in the foregoing verse. When a man knows that all beings are even in the soul, when he beholds the unity, then there is no delusion, no grief. There is no wise man who ever wishes to conjoin the knowledge of the unity of Atma with sacrificial works or with inferior knowledge or with anything other than knowledge. Those who wish to make such a conjunction are the ignorant who are censored here. Herein is taught the conjunction of those things only, the combination of which is possible either logically or through the authority of scriptures, and the Atma Jnana and works can never be so combined. That which is called Devam Vittam, divine wealth, that is the knowledge about things divine or appertaining to the gods, is the meaning conveyed here by the word Vidya, because there is the relationship of such knowledge to sacrificial acts, and no Brahmajnana or the knowledge of the Supreme for such knowledge has no relationship to karma. Moreover, the different fruit of Deva knowledge is declared in the text. By the lower knowledge, one attains to the region of gods, Devaloka. In the following verse, censor is passed when a person devotes himself exclusively to one of those two, that is, inferior knowledge or sacrifices separately, in order that one person should practice both concurrently, and not that the sacrificial works or lower knowledge is reproachable per se, because the verses show later on the different fruits of each. Thus the text says, by knowledge they reach to that state, by knowledge they attain to Devaloka. From that region one does not come back. By works one attains to the region of the fathers, so that nothing ordained by scripture should be left unperformed, and thus shastric injunctions do not become futile. There they enter into glooming darkness, which darkness in which nothing is visible. Who enter? Those who are devoted to avidya, which is not vidya, that is sacrificial works, because work is opposed to knowledge. Those who worship upasate, which who being intensely absorbed therein perform merely the agnihotra, and that the like called herein avidya. Tataha, from that blind darkness, bhuya iva, to even greater te tamaha darkness they enter. Who enter, who having abandoned works are devoted to or absorbed in knowledge, vidya, which in the inferior knowledge of the gods. The separate and different fruits produced by knowledge and works have been taught in order that both should be combined. These two do not stand to each other in the relation of principal and subordinate, for a subordinate act is never capable of producing independently any fruit. In other words, if the conjunction was not meant, then the juxtaposition of two things, one producing fruit and the other not producing any fruit, would establish between them the relation of principal and subordinate, which is not meant. The text proves the coordination of karma and inferior vidya, the end being the conjoint effect of both. Ananta's commentary, stanza number 9. Andhatmaha. The following six verses have the Anustup meter, desirous of teaching that knowledge and works should be harmoniously combined in one person. The Shruti censors the exclusive devotion to each, that is, those persons who worship upashate, who perform only avidya, namely that which is other than vidya, that is, works, that is to say, who perform sacrifice only for the sake of obtaining heaven in the word avidya, the negative particle a has the force of indicating something other than the thing signified by the word to which it is added, like Abrahamnua, a person other than Brahma, Brahma, that is a Akshatriya, Brahmana, that is a Akshatriya. Such being Such beings enter pravishanti into blinding andham in which nothing can be seen but darkness, tamas, namely ignorance. In other words, they experience the recurrence of worldly transmigrations. Tataha. Then that then that blinding darkness represented by transmigration, bhuya, eva. Eva here is equal to eva, to a greater darkness, even they enter who again punah are engaged only in vidya, that is, in the study of Atma or the knowledge of the deities. The sense is that such persons, by having abandoned sacred works and incurring the guilt of the non performance of the duties enjoined by the Shastras, do not get their hearts purified, which such works only can accomplish, and consequently do not obtain knowledge, though they may seek it. Others explain this verse in a different sense. They say this verse establishes the necessity of censoring every false knowledge other than the knowledge of the true nature of Atma. By a false knowledge about Atma, one goes to the regions of the Asuras as taught in verse 3. But by not censoring false knowledge, there is a greater fall than going to the regions of the Asuras. This verse does not censor works pure and simple because in the absence of works there would necessarily be a want of effort to acquire knowledge, the effort itself being a work, and because of the non reproach of devotion to mere works. Moreover, the word eva merely in verse 2, performing merely sacred works, let a man desire to live 100 years, shows that mere works without knowledge are not censorable. Therefore, the sense of this verse is those who are devoted to avidya, that is, false knowledge about spirit, enter the hell called andham tamash. Thus, the Shruti says, who knoweth the Brahma to be Asat, he becomes as if Asat. Similarly, those who are selfishly engaged in acquisition of the knowledge of the true nature of spirit Vidya, and do not censor the false knowledge of spirit by which people fall into the state of Andhantamaha, fall on this very account into deeper darkness than that in which those enter who have not the true knowledge of spirit. In other words, this explanation shows that selfish seekers of spiritual knowledge miss their aim. Not only should a man himself acquire spiritual knowledge, but it is his duty to put right those who entertain false notions about spirit. Sankar's rendering, stanza number 10. They say the result of a knowledge of the gods is different, since by it one goes to the region of the gods, and they say the result of the performance of sacrificial works is different, as it leads to the regions of the Pitris. Thus have we heard from the wise ones who explained both to us. Ananta's rendering, stanza number 10. The knowers of God say the result of the knowledge of God is different, as it confirms immortality, and they say the result of mere works is different, as it leads to the words of the fathers. This we have heard from the sages who have explained both to us. By the true knowledge of God, partial emancipation is obtained, and by putting right those who have wrong notions of God, fruit or somewhat like partial liberation is obtained. Sankara's commentary, stanza number 10. By Vidya or inferior knowledge, a different anyat fruit is produced, for so they say, Ahu. For the Shruti declares, by knowledge the world of the gods, by knowledge they reach there. A different anyat fruit is obtained, they say, by ignorance, namely by works. For the Shruti says, by works the world of the fathers, thus iti, we have heard Susarmaha, the speech of sages possessed of wisdom, Dhiranam, from those teachers who have explained Vicharasayar to us now, these namely works and knowledge. That is to say, this is the traditional knowledge handed down from antiquity. Ananta's commentary, stanza number 10. This verse teaches the different fruits of knowledge and mere works. Anyad and the knowers of Brahma say that the fruit of Vidya or knowledge of the self is different. That is, by such knowledge one obtains immortality. The learned say that different is the fruit of avidya, that is, different is the fruit obtainable by the performance of mere works, namely, the fruit is the obtainment of the regions of the fathers. For says the Shruti, by works the world of fathers, by knowledge the world of devas or gods. The world of gods is the best amongst all worlds, therefore they praise knowledge. How is it to know that different are the fruits of knowledge and works? The Shruti answers, Iti. We have thus heard the saying of the wise, those teachers who have explained Vyachakrisayar to us this which the different fruits of work and knowledge. That is, This is the traditional knowledge handed down from the past, from teacher to pupil in unbroken succession. When avidya and vidya are taken to mean the false and true knowledge of spirit, the meaning of the verse is this. The ancients say that by vidya or the knowledge of the true nature of the self, one fruit is obtained, namely liberation of a partial kind, and by avidya, that is by censoring false knowledge of another, a different fruit is obtained, that is a fruit similar to the fruit of partial liberation. Thus we have heard the wise say, who taught us the means of liberation. It follows therefore that both should be combined. Sankaran's rendering, stanza 11. Who knows that both these sacrificial works and knowledge about the gods are to be formed concurrently by one man, such a one through sacrifices crosses over the effects of natural works and through knowledge gets partial immortality by attaining to the condition of a deity. Ananta's rendering stanza 11. He who collectively performs both sacrifices and knowledge, knowing that both are requisite for obtaining the highest end of man, cleanses the impurities of his heart by works and by knowledge, enjoys immortality or attains liberation. Sankara's commentary, stanza 11. Vidyam cha, avidyam cha means the inferior knowledge of the God and sacrifices. He who knows both these, that is, who understands that one should practice both these conjointly, obtains the result hereinafter mentioned, because he combines both towards the accomplishment of one desired object. Such a person by sacrifices like Agnihotra, called Avidya, having crossed or overcome death, Mrityuhu, that is to say, having overcome all natural work and knowledge, both being connoted by the term Mrityuhu by knowledge, that is by knowledge of gods, enjoys or attains immortality, that is the idea of one being a deity, that is called immortality. When one reaches a state in which one feels oneself identical with divinity. Ananta's commentary, stanza number 11. The Shruti now teaches the conjunction of both Vidyam Vidya, the knowledge of Atma, Avidya, work or the censoring of false knowledge, Cha, is a conjunction showing the aggregation of both these. Tad Ubhayam Saha, both these combined as conducing to the attainment of the final purpose of man. Yo Veda, who knows that one man singly should perform both these. He through Vidya, he through avidya, namely through the performance of Agni Hotra sacrifice, with the notion of consigning it all to God, having crossed tirtva, death, that is the killer witch, the impurity of the heart, antahakarna, and having become perfect by the purification of the heart through Vidya or the knowledge of Atma, attains immortality and obtains liberation. Amrita in the text is the name of particular state, the state of liberation. As the Lord Krishna has said in the Gita, the state which is obtained through Sankhya, That very state is reached through yoga also. He who sees Sankhya and Yoga as one, he verily says, the Sankhya and Yoga here stand for knowledge and work. Shankara's rendering, stanza number 12. Those who worship the unmanifested nature go to regions of blind darkness, to a greater darkness than that go they who are devoted to the worship of the manifested nature as Hiranyagarbha. Ananta's rendering, stanza number 12. Those persons who worship the non creator, saying that God is not the creator, the world is created, preserved, and destroyed by its own inherent nature, or who hold the doctrine that soul is a phenomenon like the intoxicating power of wine and consequently there are no rebirths, enter into groping darkness and to a greater darkness they go who without cleansing their hearts by works and not knowing their impurities are blindly absorbed in the pursuit of spiritual knowledge. Sankara's commentary, stanza number 12. Now desirous of teaching the collective and conjoint worship of the manifest and unmanifest, text censors the exclusive worship of each. They enter into blind darkness who worship Asambhuti. The creation is called Sambhuti, that of which the effect is creation is called Sambhuti. That which is not Sambhuti is called Asambhuti, which nature. Cause ignorance called the unmanifest. Those who worship her, the great unborn called the unmanifest, the nature, the cause, the ignorance, the seed of desire and action, the invisible, they enter into a gloomy darkness appropriate thereto and into a greater darkness than that enter they who are devoted to God in nature. Karya Brahma called the Hirne Garbha. Ananta's commentary, stanza number 12. The above mentioned statement is further strengthened by three verses 12 to 14. Andhamataha. It has already been said that they go to blind darkness who worship avidya. Now is explained the nature and form of this avidya by the word asambhuti. Asambhuti, there is no sambhuti, that is, there is no being by whom the world is created, preserved. Asambhuti must have this meaning as Sambhuti means creator. Those who hold that God is not the agent in the creation, preservation of the world, but that by its own nature it is produced, preserved, and destroyed, those who worship the Atma in this way enter into blind darkness because the Shruti says, from whom all these creatures are produced, by whom being born they live, and to whom they go, they enter. And the above mentioned persons contradict this Shruti. So has also Lord Krishna said, the Asuras say that the world is untrue, is not governed by laws of virtue and vice, is without any god or ruler, is produced from the union of atoms or male and female, and say that nothing else but desire has caused it. They holding such opinions based upon gross perception only are of evil conduct, of small intelligence, of cruel deeds, and born for the destruction of the world. These fools obtaining the birth of an asura in each successive incarnation and not attaining me, O son of Punti, go consequently to lowest state. 16th chapter, stanza number 8, 9 and 20. The rest of the verse is like the previous one, or the meaning is this: there is no intelligent Atma endowed with the qualities of Yama and Niyama, and all souls are like bubbles in water. The intelligence is an accidental quality, like the intoxicating power produced in wine by fermentation. The Bodhas holding such evil doctrines are being censored by this verse. Those persons who worship Asambhuti, that is, who hold as firm dogma that there is no rebirth, na Sambhuti, that there is no incarnation of a person once dead, and consequently who hold that on death we become liberated, mukti, verily they enter into blind darkness. And similarly, those who are devoted to Sambhuti, that is the Creator, the Supreme Deva, who are absorbed in Him and do not perform works, who, not knowing the impurities of their intellect, are engaged in the pursuit of the knowledge of Atma only. That is, who hold that Atma only exists, that there are no such things as works, and that there is no connection between Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. Such persons enter into a far even greater bhuya darkness than blind darkness. Or the meaning may be this: desirous of combining the worship of the manifest and the unmanifest. This verse censors the exclusive devotion to either alone. Therefore, Sambhuti means creation, the production of effect. The opposite of this is Asambhuti or Prakriti, or the cause called unmanifest. Those who worship that Asambhuti called the unmanifest, the cause or Prakriti, which is to seed of ignorance, desire and works which is invisible, go to a corresponding blind darkness, that is, fall into the cycle of births and deaths. And those who worship Sambhuti, the Brahma in its effects like Hiranyagarbha, enter into a far greater darkness than the last. So I assume this video to be completed at this stage. Next video will start with stanza number 13. Sankra's rendering stanza number 13. Thank you for watching this video. Namaskar. Thank you.